So
Wait, say that again. It takes what?
So what it does is it takes the list of all stocks, right? All stocks on the NASDAQ or ARCA, the New York Stock Exchange, and it sorts them. So here, I'll just pull up. It sorts them by respective categories. So let's go to Stock Screener. So basically what a stock screener does is you're giving it parameters, right? So right now we're looking at a list of 3,281 items, right? Now, basically like over here, this is the guy who's our client is a financial advisor, but he wants to build his own version of this financial advisor website that he uses, right? So what this website does is it has a bunch of different models that they've built, right? And when I say a model, that just means sorting the stocks by a specific set of parameters.
Right. Sorting the stocks or the stock?
The stocks, because in this list that we're starting with 3,281 stocks. And then you go through things and sort them by, like, let's go to the commercial services sector. So just by sorting to commercial services, it's now down to 82. So it went from 3,000 to 82, right? If I add communications sector, then it goes up to 95, right? You can see where I'm going with this, right? So basically what you're doing is you're sorting the list of all stocks based upon a bunch of mathematical factors, right? It's the same thing in principle as what we were doing, but we were doing it focused on one asset. This is, while I love my technical analysis approach, this is going to be way better for us long term if we just start on this side, because this software is getting built and financial advisors are going to use it, right? He has 200 plus clients himself that he wants to use it for, right? So down the road, Warrior Portfolios, we'll go to like conferences for financial advisors and shit like that, right? It affects anybody who has a stock portfolio of any kind, right? Anyone with a 401k, anything like that. So,
right, because they have, as you were telling me, they have to make decisions as to how this money is going to get invested, and they have a pool of stocks, and they have to determine which of these are going to be done for this particular period.
Correct. Now check this out. So this is basically my map here, if you will. It's this system that he uses. We're just making it a lot prettier. You see? And also defining our own parameters and just doing it ourselves, because that's freaking awesome, you know? But yeah, so you can sort by like risk model, for example. You could say aggressive, right? And then you can do all sorts of things like, you know, point out like maximum standard deviation, minimum yield. You can tell it how many allocations how many models it wants to allow it to use, right? If you just leave it blank, I'll just show you what it looks like when it's blank versus like when you enter something into it. It's going to give you a crazy result because it's basically backtesting the best possible scenario for the last like 20 years. Okay, so that's pretty much just blank. It's saying if you would have left $100,000 in there, it would be worth $13 million after 20 years. Obviously, these are hypothetical returns, right? Hypothetical annual returns. Oh, wait. Yeah, so the only thing that I said there was sorting by quarterly, which is like, instead of sorting basically how a portfolio rebalance model works, or like a quantitative analysis model, is every month on the first trading day, right? So the 1st of January. Well, actually the market's closed on the 1st January. The first trading day of every month. So if it falls on a weekend, then it'd be like Monday or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if the first falls on a weekend. So every first trading day of the month, a financial advisor basically takes this report right? So what that generated, you can't really see it. It's kind of, see how annoying this tool is that he uses?
Yeah.
We're making it a lot prettier and more user friendly in our own respect. You see how it says 13 right here?
Yeah.
So that's the percentage that it would put into this hypothetical portfolio, right? And then if I were to see, this is how antiquated this is. Take this code, copy, and then put it into the PDF generator, right? Which we're gonna have buttons for all of this stuff. And then submit.
So just to kind of get ahead of things for a second. So you're saying that instead of the inputs being from an indicator, the inputs are going to be the inputs coming in here, and we're going to use a neural network to create new outputs, originally based upon the rules you're setting here, but eventually upon the rules the network learns and bests.
That's it. Right there. We have to build our own models, which is going to be really awesome and fun. But as we build our own models, the AI can absolutely help us with the quantitative models. Why the hell not? You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing as like the strategy I showed you, right? That's a set of parameters back-tested against the asset that it's trading on.
Right.
This is a set of parameters against all of the assets, sorted by sector and performance and things like that.
How do you know then? Because before it was easy to know if it did well or not. You just look at the price of one stock,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can tell how good it did. Here, how are you gonna know how good it did? By the amount of money it makes?
By when it rebalanced, what the model said. So if you rebalance on the first trading day of every month or the first trading day of every quarter, it takes that information and spits out an output on the first trading day of every month or on the first trading day of every quarter. So whatever it said on that day, right? So it said a list of 10 stocks to buy on the first trading day. That's the data point, and then the next month it compares it against that and then rebalances again.
Oh, so the only output that this does is once a month?
Or once a quarter, or once a year.
And it's just saying buy these 10 stocks or sell these 10 stocks?
Correct.
Or do whatever, but usually with 10 stocks, you're saying?
That's so like the report I just generated. Look how many stocks are in here. This is crazy. You can't do this for 100 clients every month, right? So then you have to come over and kind of narrow it down, right? Like I want to say, only quarterly models, yes, and then maximum number of allocations. You can say like 3, for example, instead of like 30, right? And then, so that just ran, just like that, ran a report based upon all the quantitative models that they have defined here. They have a bunch of them because this is literally like a financial advisor quantitative analysis system. Like, look how many models they have, right? Large cap growth model. But they have descriptions of how all the models work as well. So, like right here, for example. All assets risk on, risk off rotation model. The model analyzes 21 on-off risk index ETF strategies, creating an artificial indices from their historical returns for technical evaluation. Basically what that means is the S&P 500 is an indice. The QQQ is an indice. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is an industry. Or, indice. So it's taking the stocks within that, right? So the S&P 500 is 500 stocks, the 500 most valuable stocks.
Right.
And then the NASDAQ 100 is the most valuable 100 tech companies, right? So you have a list of this already pre-sorted in your database, right? That's constantly being updated, right? So what's going to happen is the data is going to be constantly being updated what's going on with every single stock and every single indice.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the point of rebalance, so hypothetically, once every month or once every quarter, in this instance, there's going to be things that may stay the same within the list that it provides, or they may change completely, right? That's not the point of the model. The point of the model is to constantly be participating in assets that are appreciating over in value, right? So like, it's basically like it doesn't really matter as long as they fall within the parameters, right? If you're looking at the top 100 and you're trying to sort it down to 10, you have to find parameters within those 10 that stick out, you know? As to like price to earnings.
So in other words, it gives you like 100. It gives you a choice of 100, let's say, but then you just pick the best ones that you like for whatever reasons.
Yes, so in this case, it's 8-month price momentum, 9-month high versus 9-month low of each asset, 4-month alpha versus the S&P 500, month end versus the 12-month high price. Okay, so that might not make sense, but like that makes perfect sense to me, right? Like all of those variables we define within our stock screener, right? Like, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. There's so many metrics that you can look at. But, so I've been getting into like, you know, all of these different values here. That's the direction we need to go with the AI though. Predicting quantitative models for us. The individual strategies is cool, but that's not going to take us where this will take us. I can guarantee that.
So, can we define the inputs?
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm going through right now and defining for our team here. We're literally going through every single field and every single button as to what they're going to do. Defining like, you know, whether it's a text input, a numeric input, a calendar selection, a float, a drop down, right? And then right here, so within the last couple of days since I've seen you, this is what I started on, is defining the backtesting parameters. So my team that I'm paying that over the next like 5 months is building the backtesting system to sort the parameters. Mm-hmm. Like that's literally what we're doing.
Right, because the back system is the same as that other chart you were showing me where you could plot the graph going up like this for each one of those things. That's the back testing. Mm-hmm. And the way to get that to work is you obviously need to define all the inputs.
Correct.
So that you can generate the line.
Yes. It's exactly, dude, I'm telling you, it's the same process as producing one of like the Microsoft algorithm, for example, right? We want the same outcome. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
This is just on Microsoft though. Yeah. We want this outcome when you're taking your whole stack of money and splitting it between stocks on a quantitative basis. So say you have like, you know, 10% in each asset, whenever it rebalances, whatever model you're using. Say you're using a large cap model. So it's rebalancing between Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, right? Only like the largest stocks. Mm-hmm. And you just rebalance between those, for example. Well, we want to find the best time to rebalance between them. And how are we going to produce a result like this if we're looking at the same assets, you know? So it's like you basically look at like how did they perform overall? So it might look like this, right? Mm-hmm. Like all of them added, all their prices added together divided by the amount of time in the calculation. Mm-hmm. So like every minute or every hour, right? And then you plot that on a chart, and then you're looking for the ratio between those 10 in defining that within the stock screener, right? You're basically going through and saying this kind of stuff. 9-month high versus 9-month low. That would be an input somewhere within the system, right? So you could look at or price to earnings ratio, right? Return on assets, debt to equity ratio.
So you're saying that you use those rules to determine which ones are going to stay, which ones are going to go on to the next round, or
yes,
are going to participate in the next round.
Yes.
by the ones who meet these criteria.
Yes.
Right, so, and obviously these inputs are gonna be time stamped,
Yes, every
Right.
one of them.
because that's the only way to generate the chart.
Correct.
So once you have all that data, then that's really the data ready for me to use it.
I know.
Yes,
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
perfect.
It's because like I'm literally going through and defining for my coders how to input the data, right? Like, and you can see this is how we're sorting, right? We're going to be able to compare to another portfolio, compare to our models. You're going to be able to select whatever stocks you want, ticker symbols, put in like your initial capital because it has to have some number to work with, right? Max assets per portfolio. So if you wanted like only 10 to be split, however, right? One could be 20%, one could be 30%, one could be 5%, whatever, right? Weighting method, right? Is it going to be equal to, 10% in each asset? Is it going to be by market cap? Like which assets are the largest is how you sort it. Risk parity, custom percentage, if you want to set them individually percentage wise. Benchmark comparisons, so having something to compare it against, like this, for example, right? Basically, this is defining this chart right here. You're comparing it against the S&P 500. So this red line is the S&P 500, and this is how the model performed against it. Right? That's basically the same thing as this. You're producing how you interacted with the market, right? So you see how it's producing these two lines right here?
Yeah.
Same sort of thing, right? How your model did against the S&P 500. That's the benchmark you're trying to beat. So yeah, I'm going to basically, over the next several months, be learning how to exactly define these parameters. Price to earnings ratio, price to book ratio, return on equity, earnings per share, dividend yield, debt to equity ratio.
Where are you getting that list from?
That,
Are you just copying it from what you're seeing on that website kind of deal?
no,
Or he has certain standards he wants to have, like certain parameters he wants.
he's not so much on the parameter side as he is on the front end functionality and selling it, like selling the software side. Well, of course, he's a financial advisor, so we're going to be going over a lot of the models and
Right.
everything, breaking it down.
Right.
But right now, I can't even begin to make models like this until I get my coders to build the whole system in order to do the inputs. I mean, I can start on the whole problem with TradingView, for example, is there's no like back testing, right? Like I can sort the stocks all day long, but there's no way to compare it against history.
Right. It's interesting. Oh wait, so you're saying that when you showed it to me with the individual stocks and you show me the chart that it creates, that functionality they do have,
So
but they don't have it for this.
correct. So they have the tool, right? But what you're looking at here, TradingView is all centered around this, right? Which is how many you're looking at one single asset, Microsoft in this example, right? TradingView is perfectly designed to do as in-depth of analysis on a single asset as you could possibly imagine. But doing in-depth analysis on a multitude of assets, there's no way to generate like a back test. Does that make sense?
Right, because you literally would have to do a time stamp and then an average of all of them at that time stamp. Is that basically what you're saying? And then backtest that time?
Yes.
Right? Because you literally, so in other words, you would create a line for each one of them, and then at each point average the lines, and then you generate a point, and that's.
Or you basically take the result from each one of them, add them together, and divide it by what you're average them out by how many there are. That would be the other way. So like this is exactly that. It's all of the metrics. Say there was like 50 lines, right? They're all averaged together and then divided by however many there are, and that produces that result. And the S&P 500 is the easiest result ever to produce because you're just looking at one asset's price over time.
Yeah.
You want to get stupid, filthy rich? Quantitative analysis. We're literally building it. I'm telling you.
So we're going one step higher, even.
We're going one step higher. It's already being built, literally. You're getting in on the ground floor of like the whole process, and the AI is going to be like the biggest part at some point. I swear.
The thing is, yeah, right?
Yes.
That's where the world's headed.
Yes. So now that I've said all that, you understand it's
yes.
sorting versus looking at a specific asset.
Right.
How do you think we should move forward here? Because that's where we have to take this.
Well, you're already doing it, which is you're figuring out all the inputs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How many inputs do you have so far? How many do you think you'll eventually have? And start giving me the actual list, the actual form that you're doing. Start giving it to me so I can start actually analyzing it and getting some advice as to what our best path forward is, which should be the similar thing.
So what you would need essentially is the information that goes into producing this report.
Yeah.
And
the exact same thing.
We take that data and let the AI sort it to see if it could smooth the average.
The idea, the idea is have it learn from historical data so that it can understand how patterns are there, and then it can improve on those patterns. It's basically the exact same thing that we were going to do with.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's the same thing. It's just more dimensions.
Mm-hmm. And it's the only more dimensions is like sorting versus like analyzing. You know what I mean? It's kind of both.
Right, but it's still going to do analyze. It's just that. Yeah, so I have to look into that a little bit more.
But hey,
to see exactly what that would be, but yeah, I think it's the same thing.
It is.
Ultimately, it's the same thing.
We're literally like, it is being built. It is being built.
But then this chart right here, look. So this is the chart you're going to give your programmers, right?
Yes, essentially like what the element is, what the type of field that it is, whether it's text, drop down, multi-select, and then the editable intervals, right? So this one just be like a text field that they can type into. This is a drop down that the default is blank, but they can select from saved client portfolios. Compare to models is default blank, but they can select from models, basically like what I was doing over here. Ticker symbols, they can select from all or search for specific ticker symbols. So yeah, I'm basically defining what all of this craziness is. See over here how there's like a million sortable things? I'm not gonna have this many because that's just absolute craziness. Ooh.
He agrees.
Oh.